If you love Star Wars and love the excitement of chasing your favorite Star Wars collectibles, the Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps is for you. Collect and trade with friends new and old through the Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps. These are the cards you're looking for.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z and Corey Clubb, the podcast you're looking for. This is, yes.
For an entire generation, people have experienced Star Wars the only way it's been possible, on the TV screen. But if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
We've been waiting for you.
The force is strong here, even stronger than the coffee.
At last! Where have you been?
Welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. Here are your hosts, Dan Z and Corey Clubb.
First time I saw it, I was like, whoa.
Watching Princess Leia take charge, I thought, girls can do that.
I like the characters that do their own thing, like me.
It is an unconventional way to connect with the kids, but students love it when you use Star Wars to teach Shakespeare.
Do or do not, there is no try. That's my parenting motto. Star Wars helps me teach my kids to stand up for hope, for good will always prevail.
It's about being true to yourself, even if that means having stormtroopers walk you down the aisle. Not just fans.
Not just parents.
Not just teachers.
Not just girls. Rebels.
So Dan, the other day you got a hold of me and said you had some big news and had something to share with everybody. It was Friday. I was sitting at a dentist appointment with my kids, and it was kind of fun because you had hinting around. You had some fun things to share with me and obviously a lot of our friends. And I had no idea what it was. I kept kind of coming up with different ideas of what it could be. Maybe a Dan Zare action figure, a Dan Zare book written by Dan Zare. I don't know. But lo and behold, Friday came around, like I said, and you sent me a link to YouTube. And I thought, well, what is this, YouTube? So I'll kind of share my experience, how I kind of saw your commercial and how I experienced it. And then we'll kind of run down through a play-by-play of how it was.
Sounds good. By the way, hi everybody. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
I'm a little caught up. I'm a little starstruck, if you will.
Oh boy, I wouldn't say that, my friend. We are. This is a pretty special show. I've been looking forward to sharing this information with you because, heck, you're my co-host, my co-pilot, my good friend, and I haven't even been able to tell you this. So everyone will be hearing this for the first time along with you, which is pretty cool. So yeah, carry on, my friend. Sure. Yeah. Like I said, we're sitting there in the dentist office and just waiting to be kind of placed in. And so I went and watched the video, and I didn't know what to expect. I obviously knew it was a video of some kind, but I didn't know Target would be doing it. And started off, the young lady was speaking, and she kind of shows her in a stormtrooper outfit. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And all of a sudden, I see this hand, and the X-Wing's going by, and this hand's drawing on a chalkboard. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's Dan's hand. I can see the hairy hand. I can see it. It's definitely Dan. I was like, oh, cool. They used his hand. That's the first guy I thought they used his hand. And then your voiceover, I was like, oh no, he's talking. And then of course goes your full shot, you turn around and saying your lines and stuff. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. This is so cool to see my friend. It just encapsulated every aspect of you as a Star Wars fan and teacher all in one quick 10-second interval of this little commercial, but then it plays on and interviews other folks, and it's such a cool commercial in itself. I think it was shot really nice. The visuals are really nice. I couldn't get over the fact that it was just like this is awesome. I mean, it was a national spot on that everybody's gonna get to see. And of course, we spread it around on our feeds and whatnot. But it was so cool to see that, and it's just I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for where what you're doing in the classroom and what you're doing for StarWars.com and just all the awesome things you've been doing. And this is just a really nice place for you to kind of stretch your arms and fly. Well, thanks, man. That really means a lot to me. I'm still laughing about the hairy hand comment.
It's true.
It is true. I mean, I'm sort of speechless myself. I mean, I found out about this in early May. Mm-hmm. I've been getting a lot of questions, of course. It's been a really, really fun experience. Everyone has been so supportive, and the thing that's the most important for me to say, I think, is I am so proud to be a part of this, of course, but this message, I absolutely love the message that this portrays. And every time I watch it, I'm just struck by my fellow peers in this thing, because I got to meet all of them. But where do you want me to start? You want me to start at the beginning?
Let's start with kind of how you got approached. Maybe I'm curious to know, what was the experience like? Tell us a little about the day of and the grueling hours, of course. I mean, I'm always fascinated with the behind the scenes things because, we only see a minute worth of advertisement, and I know that there's a lot more that goes into it, obviously, that, the production notes and the writing and the, doing, acting, doing scenes, doing takes over and over and over again. So I'm curious to know all that ins and outs.
Well, I mean, in May, the producers through a company reached out to me, and they were asking if I was interested in being a part of something where Star Wars fans were celebrated for doing things kind of unique ways to celebrate their fandom, kind of rebellious rogue type ways.
Sure.
And the examples that they gave a number of examples, and one of the examples was a teacher who uses Star Wars.
Cool.
So so I was like, well, of course, yeah.
You fit that mold, yeah.
Yeah, I love using Star Wars in the classroom. It's not the only thing that I do, but it's definitely something I incorporate because I think it encourages engagement and participation, and it's great fun, and it kind of helps me light up like a firecracker a little bit, which is always good because enthusiasm, my friend, is contagious, as you know.
It is, yeah.
So they said, well, great, we'd like to talk to you. So we set up an appointment, and they call me, and I talked for about 10 or 15 minutes, and I just kind of talked about how I use it and what was important to me about it and sort of what the franchise meant to me. And they said, okay, well, that's great. We've got some ideas. We'll reach out to you if we're still going to go this direction. And I thought, great.
At that point, did you know that it was going to be a commercial or what kind of media it would be?
I knew it was. I didn't really know that. I don't even remember that part. I just remember thinking they said it was a campaign.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I thought that was possible. I really kind of thought it was like going to be some sort of a Skype thing, to be honest, or something where I get to write something or just something like that. And so then I guess 3.5 weeks went by, and I had told Deanna originally, I talked to some people from Target, and she's like, wow, that's pretty neat. And then we just sort of, school is getting over and it's summer and got our kiddos and just doing stuff around the house and grilling out. Not as much as you grill out based on your Facebook post, but grilling out a lot.
Sure.
And so then all of a sudden I got a phone call, and I picked up my phone, and you know how we seem to get a lot of calls these days. I don't know about you, but we always get telemarketers calling us all of a sudden.
Yeah. Random numbers.
Random numbers from like Kabukistan or wherever. And then this one said Hollywood, California, and something kind of went off me. I'm like, oh,
it's Freddie. Yeah,
I think it's Freddie. What's he want this time?
Yeah, right.
So I thought, well, I better answer this one. And my little boy was talking to me, and there's just a lot of stuff going on. And the person started speaking to me. They said, hey, last year we did this Target thing for sharing the Force, and we loved it, and we thought it was beautiful. And we've got this new idea that you talked about with our producers, and we'd really like you to be a part of it. My ears, kind of peaked up, and I was just thinking, oh, okay, this is good. Tell me kind of what you have in mind. And she started talking about, we're doing this commercial, and we're going to have different fans who celebrate their fandom in unique ways, and we really like your story, and here's sort of what we have in mind.
Cool.
And they just gave me this list of things that were going to happen if I agreed to do it, and they were going to, send me to Los Angeles and just take care of all these different things and just provide this opportunity for me to share my love of Star Wars through education, just to be a fan.
Sure, absolutely.
And, it was. I'm trying to be tactful in how I present this because it's just It's so crazy.
Well,
man.
I mean, it's kind of like a whirlwind thing, and I understand that it's hard to like piece it back together and pull back.
I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
No, that's cool.
So while it's happening, they're telling me all these things that are going to happen. And then at the end, they're like, well, we're still not 100% sure that this is what we're going to do, but we feel pretty strongly about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they said, we're gonna let you know.
The cliffhanger, yeah.
Sort of, yeah. But I just had a really great feeling about it. Just really felt very positive about it. So I went, Deanna was gone, then she came home, and we were talking about something. I go, oh, by the way,
Hollywood called.
You and I might be going to Los Angeles and I might be in a Star Wars commercial.
Just a side note, yes.
And she goes, what? Like, why didn't you? What? It was just like, I think that might have been my favorite moment of all this. No, that's not true. My favorite moment is when my little boy watched it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too. Yeah,
but we just kind of like were looking at each other and like I was like, what? Like kind of pinching each other, not literally, and it was just so surreal. This is probably making for excellent podcasting. Me just blubbering.
Gushing,
yeah. And so then, basically, I checked my email voraciously. Constantly. I mean, I already do that pretty much anyway because I was waiting for updates. And then I heard again, and they said, well, the producers would like to talk to you. Target would like to talk to you. I was like, wow. So we set up a Skype and I spoke with them for a while and they asked me some similar questions that they asked me before and they asked me to expand on them. And of course, Corey, I'm not a man that is short on words. So I had no trouble talking about my passion for Star Wars and how excited it gets me and why I think it's important to educate, not only as a teacher, but as a parent too. And when that was over, they said, okay, great. Well, we'll talk to you later. And then I had talked to the directors on Skype. I think they kind of wanted to see, my comfort level with being on camera and stuff like that. And I was okay with that because it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And you got to remember, I'm a guy that when I was a kid, when I was really little, I was so shy. And I am so not shy anymore. So it's just sort of like a nice way to sort of look back and say, hey, you know what, little Dan? Cheer up, little buddy, because someday it's going to be all A-okay. And it certainly has been. You know what I mean?
Well, it certainly makes a memory for you, like you said, and obviously something you can speak to other kids and your own son and sons and be able to, approach them to, struggles that they might have too and see where you've succeeded and surpassed that. So that's really nice to hear that.
Well, thank you. And so then after I talked to the directors and they were both very, very charming and they just had so much enthusiasm. And they said, well, what's going to happen is there are you and 4 other fans, so 5 total, are going to be a part of this commercial. And I said, well, who else is in it? And they said, well, we've got a mother and a son, and we've got a married couple, and we've got you. And I said, wow. And they said, there's a lot of people that are working on this and it's going to be great and you're going to be shot on a green screen. And I was like, what? I am? And they said, yeah, and it's going to be just like George Lucas. And I was like, whoa, wow, you know what I mean? It's just insane, right? I'm just picturing what's going to happen. I had no idea like what I had to do. And they said, well, don't worry, there's no script. You're going to do some voiceover work and we're going to ask you a bunch of questions. And whatever you say in your voiceover work is going to be sort of incorporated into the commercial while you're acting it out.
Yeah, I wondered that. And I know we'll get to the day of, but I'm curious to know, how that worked and how it was written and if you had to put input on as far as what they would use for the voiceover work. That's really that's cool to hear that.
Yeah, so I heard about that and the voiceover work and they say there's nothing for you to memorize, you're just going to be yourself. And they said, now when you are talking, I want you to be comfortable using your hands. And I said, that'll be fine. I mean, even while I'm talking now, I'm using my hands. It's just a part of being a teacher. In fact, my brother and my wife, I think I've talked about this on the show before, kind of tease me a little bit because I'm so animated with my hands. That's all right.
Put those away, yeah.
That's right. As long as I don't throw the microphone while I'm speaking, that's important. So then I got an email saying, you know what, we need your measurements because they're going to make your costume. And I said,
okay.
Well, sure, of course they are. Why wouldn't they, right?
Sure. I don't know. Wow.
Again, that's a little bit later. I got an email saying with my itinerary on the way there and my itinerary for the way home. And I showed Deanna and I said, hon, look at this. And, we were just like we're just like chuckleheads the whole time because it's just a really, 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 really cool thing. So then we, the day of, we left our house about 4 a.m, flew to Los Angeles, got picked up at the airport and went to our hotel, which was, by the way, outside of our hotel window, you could see the Hollywood sign.
Yeah, that's
not too shabby.
That's pretty cool.
It's also the same place where the Oscars are and where the Hollywood Walk of Fame is. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that is incredible. That is fun.
It was. Apparently all of the people in the commercial with me were there too, although I didn't see them.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Actually, that's not true. I saw Charlie, the little girl, who's a stormtrooper, who's super, super, super cool and just as charming as she appears on the commercial. So then the first day we just sort of settled in and walked around the neighborhood and ate at In-N-Out Burger, which was awesome. The next day I got picked up and I got taken to a studio where they did wardrobe. And I was probably there for 7 or 8 hours.
Wow. Just wardrobe?
Yeah, it was wild. And I kept trying, they had me keep trying on different shirts and basically teacher clothes. You know. So
yeah, let's go back to the outfits. Like, so we have two scenarios, and if you guys remember the commercial, you're like you're in like a tie and like a shirt and like I say, quote unquote teacher clothes, and then you're in the rebel outfit. So we'll go through like some of the outfits you tried on as far as like. Is that something they had like lined up different t-shirts and stuff and ties and such?
Well, it wasn't ties. It was like they had just different t-shirts and button down shirts and just pants, and then there's just a pair of shoes for me to try on. It was basically different outfits. So I would try on a shirt and pants, and they would like take pictures, and they said, "Well, no, try this shirt with those pants. So try this size, try this and that," and then they would like hem stuff.
Oh,
so then then I looked over and did this with the other actor too. They had pictures up on the walls of different outfits that I was wearing. So I was like watching them. Like there was like 5 or 6 people looking at these different pictures, deciding which ones they wanted, which would be the best. So pretty wild. And then, but my favorite part about that was I walked in and there's this big rack of all these clothes for, all the different actors in the thing. And there was a Rebel flight suit. And there was a white tag, and I thought, oh, please let that be mine. And I walked by, and there was a little tag, and it said Dan's there.
Oh, geez.
Dude, I about pooped myself. so I tried on such things. They go, now to go try on this flight suit. I'm like, okay, if you insist. Right. And I tried it on. I looked in the mirror, and I've heard Amy Radcliffe and other people talking about out of body experiences, and I get that now.
That's awesome.
Get that because I was looking in the mirror and I thought, this is crazy. This is crazy.
So is that the one?
I wasn't walking around like blubbering. I was felt very calm and very comfortable, and in the element I was supposed to be in. And I think that's just because I was excited and I knew this was a good opportunity.
Sure.
And it was fun. I wanted to make my family proud. I wanted to make the show proud. I just wanted to have fun and embrace this moment because I knew it was a once in a lifetime deal. So, I mean, I tried on the Rebel suit. There were boots that went with it, these amazing gloves, just fit perfectly. They did some little hemming and pinning and stuff like that. They provided lunch.
So back to the Rebel outfit. I mean, I don't know if you can say or not, but did you get to keep it?
No.
Unfortunately.
I did not. Believe me, it's not, it was not for lack of trying.
Yeah, did they like, okay, we're going to just put this in a box somewhere and, we'll just move it on to a costume house somewhere? Or is this like, will this be authentically used somewhere else, like in a Star Wars film somewhere?
I think it's going to be at the Smithsonian.
Oh, that's cool. That's great. Wonderful. They right away they just case it.
I don't know, but I really of course we know about the Stormtrooper armor, but I really kind of fell in love with the whole flight suit X-wing thing after that.
What you did, yeah.
So at some point I would love to acquire one to be sure. And I noticed it was Pose, right?
Yeah.
So that was pretty slick too.
That's right.
So anyway, so then I had lunch. They said, well, whenever you're ready, we'd like to do your voiceover. Okay. So I go into this booth with the directors, and I'm telling you, as soon as I walked in there and they closed the door, you could just feel like this was a sound vacuum. It was incredibly professional. You know what I mean? And I think this was my favorite part of the entire thing as far as the commercial was this voiceover. Like I could get into doing that regularly. That was tremendous fun because basically they just asked me questions. They asked me probably, 25, 30 questions about Star Wars, about teaching, about my history with it, favorite characters, themes, all kinds of stuff. And I talked for an hour and a half, which I know shocks you.
Right. Well,
and while I was talking,
that's good.
While I was talking, like there's this big glass window, and you haven't heard any of these stories, have you?
No, I have not. No, this is all new.
Yeah, so there's like 4 people in this other room, and they're typing the whole way, looking at computers, and I'm thinking they're doing work or whatever. And they were writing down everything I was saying.
Oh, cool.
And they made a script based on what I said.
Okay.
And so like they were taking time to compile it and do all this kind of stuff. And it was pretty fun because when I was talking, I could tell that what I was saying was going over well because they kept smiling and laughing, which made me happy. I'm not shy about accepting attention. I don't know if you do that or not. Yeah. So, and like they were laughing and asking me different questions after, like bonus questions. So then they came back in and they had this list of like 35 different sentences, and they had me say each sentence, 10, 20, 30 times with enunciating different words or, slow down here or speed up this or emphasize this word. And it was amazing. And actually, it was a little bit like, it's weird when you have to act like yourself, being yourself.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
Like, no, say it this way. And because I know how I say things. And I said, well, can I just read it? And they said, well, you can, but it's not going to sound like you're saying it.
Right.
I said, okay. And so then I said, let me just try to read this one. Because the sentence they used, I think it was condensed, but the sentence they used was the one that I ended up reading.
Do you know it by heart?
Well, only because I watched the commercial about 1 million times. And so then I did read it, and I'm like, this does sound inauthentic. So I said, all right, and they said, just say little parts at a time, and we'll edit it together, which, doing the show, I know how that can very easily be done.
Yeah. So
that was incredible. And I walked out of there just glowing, and then I had to try on some more stuff. And I talked to, Amira was there. Amira was, the woman, and her son was Brandon.
Okay.
And Amira's voiceover work on the commercial about Princess Leia saying, I can do that, seeing Princess Leia take charge, that inspired me. Like that, I think her work combined with Charlie just set the tone for this piece. And I'll get to that later. I'm really proud of it. I just love it.
Sure.
I could go on and on. So Brandon was really fun. He unfortunately didn't get to be on the show that everyone is going to hear after you and I get done talking, because it was late. It was late on the coast. But he was funny, and he and I were talking about Boba Fett and The Empire Strikes Back, and he's 10. He was asking really fun little questions that were so random, and I just had a ball with him. And Amir was very, very nice. And we had a guy named Martin. I'm giving Martin a shout out, and he drove us around everywhere. And he had this incredible. He had this British/Australian accent, if you can picture that. And just hearing his stories was just so much fun. And I know I'm stories, just kind of all over the place, random. So anyway, that was Tuesday, and then Wednesday we had the day off, so we went to Disneyland.
Cool.
We saw the video that I made on Coffee with Kenobi and reviewed Launch Bay.
Launch Bay, yeah.
Yeah, and that was super cool. Went to the Santa Monica beach, and it was quite a lot of fun. So Thursday was the shoot. So, do you have any specific questions? Or you just want me to keep going on and on?
Well, I mean, so you've basically compiled like all the information, and they're obviously writing a script and such, and putting things together. They've got all those things down, and they've written up. I'm assuming some of the scenes maybe, and the angles they want to get and such. And so, yeah, I mean, go into like what was it like coming in on the I guess we're gonna call it shooting day. And doing the shots. Do you have to wait around for everybody else to get their shots in first, or was that an order to that, or is everybody going at the same time, or kind of?
No, and then we go into this when I talk with the rest of the cast. But the first day that they shot on Wednesday was Amira and her son Brandon, and then Jennifer and her husband. They did their part, and then the next day, Thursday, when I was on set, it was me and then Charlie and her dad.
Okay,
Tom.
Cool. Yeah.
So I got to with the opening scene when you see Charlie and the ships fly over her head and her hair's flying around, you know what I mean? That beautiful shot. That was done with like 6 or 7 wind fans just blowing at her constantly. And they did that so many times. It's just funny to see her. She was such a good sport.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's so cool.
She's just a great soul, just very, very pleasant person to be around. So while that was going on, it was, they picked us up at 6 a.m. and they had, full craft services catering there, and they had like omelets and people with like slicing roast beef and stuff.
Oh, cool.
It was
That's crazy.
Yeah. So then,
did you feel like you're on a set, like, or you said it was green screen,
yes.
So it was like you get that movie feeling, like you always see movies, but then you see like the parts where they show the behind the scenes stuff, and you see them like all kind of standing around, everybody's kind of doing their thing, and they're all kind of focused on one particular piece. Did you feel that way off to the side, and yet also as you're doing your scenes?
I'll give you two things that tell you how I felt about the whole thing.
Yeah.
One, I saw the storyboard, and I saw me animated on the Star Wars storyboard.
Oh, that's so cool.
And that was amazing. And then, besides that, I had a stand-in. Like, there was a guy that was similar build with me, spiky hair. Whenever I was offset and they were like fixing my makeup or my costume or whatever they were doing,
whatnot, sure.
Like, he would go up there and he would draw on the board, and they were fixing lighting, and I looked at the call sheet and I thought, I have a stand-in. Like, I have a stand. That's crazy, right?
That's stunt double.
He was very nice guy, very, very, very cool guy.
That's
too.
So fun.
So that was neat. So yeah, I totally felt like the whole time I just kept thinking, wow, this is how it feels. This is weird. I have a whole new appreciation for commercials and television and movies and what goes into them.
Sure.
That little moment that you saw me on for the commercial.
Yeah.
I was there for 8 hours. Like, I drew that line probably 125 times.
Now, when you drew that line, was it like all green screen, like you're drawing on a imaginary chalkboard? Do you have a piece of chalk in your hand? Like, how did that go?
Well, it was a real chalkboard. And after I was there and we did all the fittings and stuff like that, I was leaving and I got a text from one of the producers, and they said, we need you to get a manicure. And I was like, what? And at first I was like, kind of like put off by that, but like, no, trust me, this is a very Hollywood thing. You need to get a manicure because your hands are going to be close up on your hands. Mm-hmm. So Deanna got a huge kick out of that.
That was your first manicure, right?
I did get one. It was the first and only one I've ever gotten. And I got to say, it wasn't too bad.
There you go.
I almost fell asleep during it, to be honest with you.
Just relax and take your time.
Once is enough.
Sure.
Once is enough. It was awkward enough as it is. But it was worth it. I suffer for my art, Corey.
That's right.
So
that's good.
So what was it that you asked me?
So the chalkboard. You're drawing the
chalkboard The chalkboard had some things on it about the hero's journey in Shakespeare and some different designs. Mm-hmm. And it was cool. It was super cool. There were some things that I suggested that I thought might enhance what they had there.
Nice.
Like, you're the teacher. So they added it to it, cool. Which was super cool. Yeah, it was nice that they valued my input. And I said, can we put a lightsaber on there too? That would be cool. And they're like, sure. So they drew this beautiful lightsaber. I mean, and the guys that worked on this, every single person that I worked with, like makeup and lighting, mm-hmm. and the person, like I was on a rig. So that chalkboard, the scene where it's me and I'm Poe.
Yeah.
I've got the pilot suit on. It turned left. Well, the thing turned left while I turned right. So the first few times it was hard to kind of keep your stance on there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they would have to reset it all the time, and then they had to go up there because that line that was there was already there. Sure. And they gave me a piece of chalk, and I had to continually trace the line over and over and over again. And every time they would say cut, he'd have to go up there and erase my part and re-stencil it again perfectly, beautifully. And he was the most patient, kind guy. I mean, seriously, I really treasured working with them because they were super cool.
That's fun.
Super cool.
That's so cool.
And the funny part was that I probably broke, 25 pieces of chalk. And it might be because of my freakish strength. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't control that. But
that's it. So eventually they just gave me like this rubber thing that looked like chalk, and I just used that because you had to touch the line.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
You had to touch the line, so you're actually drawing on it. But I had to, it's weird, like trying to grip the chalk and not grip the chalk and the way the rig moves. Again, these are all things that just seem natural, but when you have to do them on camera, it's just sort of weird how little things end up being. I mean, I completely respect and admire so much professionals, because I'm not a professional. I'm just a very fortunate guy,
Yeah.
And it's crazy what they have to go. I mean, Harrison Ford, my goodness, he'd probably do this in 5 minutes.
Right. It's so interesting to see, like, your perspective of stepping in and doing that over and over and over again until, like, you said you had little mishaps here and there. And you hear about something on the set that happened, somebody got injured or somebody got hurt or something happened or something funny, or, you always hear those reports of actors and such. And you think, oh, they're just having fun. You're joking around, they're actors. No, it's like, this is them from doing it all day long. It's their work. It's their job. Yeah. It's so cool to hear the insides and outs.
Well, they kept saying, do you want a break? Do you want some water? Do you want some food? And I'm just like, no, man, I'm just standing here I'm just standing here being in Star Wars. I'll stand up here for twice as long, because it was very, very fun. So they shot me for 3 shots. The first one was me drawing the line, which took a long time, but it was neat. And I had to do it in the teacher outfit, and then I had to do it all again in the pilot outfit.
Okay.
And then the next scene was me turning around. This was the one that took the longest. And they had I pointed to different things, making connections between Shakespearean and Star Wars characters. And then I turn around to my pretend class and I kind of do some stuff with my hands. And we had a lot of different things that they wanted me to do. And it's weird to act like that and not talk, and that's why I said I'm such a talker when I'm in class. So it was different to do it that way, but it was super fun. I just kept picturing my students smiling and listening to me while I was talking, and that was neat.
That was cool.
Neat. So I did that as the teacher, and I did that as the pilot also. Okay. And then the end shot where they just zoom in on, they just say the teachers or parents, the very, very end of the commercial. I was standing there, and the camera slowly zoomed into my face all the way up to it was almost onto my eyelashes. That's how close it was.
Wow.
And that was probably an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, and I did it
just doing that
in the pilot outfit and in the teacher thing. And they would just talk to me. The director, he was French, and he was just so wonderful and so charming. Yeah, he was a great guy. I just loved him so much. They were both wonderful to me, and he would just say different things to inspire me, which was really neat. And then he said, I want you to look inspired. You're a teacher. I want you to picture how you inspire your students. And honestly, what I was thinking about was my family, and then looking at this commercial and what Mason would think about it and how excited my students would be. And I don't know, it was pretty cool.
Wow. That's pretty neat. I'm almost like, I'm trying to think of things that I ask you, or I'm just like, it's so cool to hear these stories and hear your experience. And, as much as it's, people, a couple of days of doing some voiceover work and some acting and some shots and stuff. And it's, actually to hear this maybe and go, that's nothing in my world, type thing. But it's like, it's cool to see it from your perspective as like you said, you're doing a fun project, you meet some great folks, work with some wonderful people, and just, come out of it feeling like, I'm setting a message or creating a message, for your students, for your occupation, for your fandom. And it's so cool to hear that and be able to, like you said, just get to hear these stories and live vicariously through you a little bit. It's so cool. I mean, you mentioned something about, feeling inspired and standing up there and doing that for an hour, but like, it's something, to walk away from all that stuff. Like you said, so once you got it all completed and done and the day was over, did you guys get to see it, or did you have to wait until the premiere to go and see it in the final version?
Well, I mean, since it was all on green screen and obviously you could tell the visuals on this thing are just absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Even if, regardless of my involvement or not, I thought this thing is just beautiful. It's just so wonderful. It just completely encapsulates the spirit of Star Wars and those unique things about it that make it stand out. So I'm just proud of that. But as far as what happened afterwards, when I was done, they said that's a wrap on Dan Z, because they called me Dan Z, and
of course.
And I thought that was so wild. I thought that was neat.
That's your stage name, of course.
I guess so. And they had different pictures around of me from the website and stuff like that.
Stuff at all, or
no? I mean, I didn't want to overstep. You know what I mean? And it was just all part of the process.
Sure.
And so no, I didn't get to see it until shortly before it aired. None of us did.
Oh, okay.
So in fact, when right after the break, after we hear from our sponsor, Topps Digital, you're going to hear from the rest of the cast because I got to talk with them last week, and none of us had seen it when we had the second part of the interview you're going to hear. Okay. So we were all just very, very excited about the prospect of seeing it because we didn't really know what it was going to be. They just kept saying, you're going to be excited. Like, I didn't know that there was going to be an X-Wing that led into me drawing. And, Charlie didn't know about the things flying over her head and all that kind of stuff. So
that's so neat.
It was cool. And Charlie was super neat because she's famous because in October of 2014, she was, I'm just trying to think about it. Just so many crazy things happened. She was deciding what to do for Halloween, and her dad asked her, and she said, I want to be Han Solo.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, that's great. And she said, well, yeah, but he's a guy. And she was, and her dad, Tom said, yeah, that would be great. Who cares? And she said, will you be Princess Leia? And he said, of course. So I took a picture on Facebook for fun.
Yeah. It went viral.
And Good Morning America.
I remember that.
They were all over the place.
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
Yeah, and Amira and her son, I think that's when we started the show, around the show. But Amira and her son, she runs this amazing blog called For Hats and Frugal. And dude, she's talked to everybody. She's interviewed Harrison Ford, Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, everybody. Yeah, they were like incredibly. They're even more gracious and kind and pleasant people to be around than they are Star Wars fans.
Wow.
And yeah, they had all of us have some sort of an online presence. And I guess that's why we're picked. People keep saying to me, "Why? How did you get picked? Why did you get picked?" And I said, "You know what? Here's the thing. This is what I keep trying to tell people, students, members of our Coffee with Kenobi family, whatever. You have to put yourself in a position so that when opportunities come, you're ready for them. I mean, we're passionate about what we do here at Coffee with Kenobi. I'm passionate about what I do as an educator, and I bust my butt." Because I want to take care of my family, and because I'm passionate about it and it's super fun. So, you don't be quiet about the things you're passionate about. Don't be quiet or ashamed to show your talents because you have them for a reason. So I was ready, when I got that message, hey, we'd like you to do this. I was ready because I believe very much in inspiring people through Star Wars. I believe very much in spreading that message about equality, and doesn't really matter about gender. It matters about believing that there is hope, there is good in the world, and good will always prevail. And that is why I love this commercial so much.
Wow. It's so funny because my wife and I are kind of talking about it, and she asked that same question, why did Dan get picked? And, I kind of said, he's worked really hard to get, to do the things he does. And he has obviously a huge passion for all the things he does, whether it's Star Wars or teaching or being a father or a husband. And it shines through. It really does. I mean, and that's the thing too. It's like, you're just doing it to get a commercial, or you're just doing it to get this or that. No, it's like you said, you're continually doing these passionate things, in order to spread that good nature, and like you said, this commercial has a great message. You're spreading that message. So why wouldn't you want to take your passions and drive that message? Well, I congratulate you on having such a success and being able to just spread that message. And, it's fun to talk about these things and kind of, it's fun to listen to you speak about it. And it's such enjoyment for me, as your co-host and as your friend, and be able to live vicariously through you a little bit. So, but hats off to you because you nailed it, dude. I was impressed. I was blown away. I think I watched it more when I watched the Rebels trailer. So it's a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's fun for me to finally be able to talk about it with you and to show it to my family. Of course, my mom loved it and got emotional, and just seeing people watch that is fun. People said, "Did you show your students?" Of course I did. That's right. And it was very neat, very interesting, the reactions. A lot of just there was a ton of smiles and asking me really fun questions about it, and just looking at me in a different way, but like in a fun way, you know. And then one of my classes, my seniors, when it happened, whenever I would show up on screen, they laughed and cheered like it was a sporting event, which was pretty fun. And then one of my classes gave me a standing ovation, which was really sweet.
That's
and,
nice.
and really, really, very, really, very kind. And everyone has been so supportive. The school's been pretty excited about it.
Well, that's cool. And you mentioned,
I can only imagine what the rest of what Mira and Jennifer and I just speaking of Jennifer, I didn't talk about Jennifer. Jennifer and I talked a lot the day of when I was doing the voiceover and the fittings and stuff because she was too, and she was great. She's got a podcast, Force Center, and she's got an awesome YouTube channel where she talks about her love of Star Wars and analyzes different things and does reviews. And we're gonna have links to all of this stuff in the show notes naturally, but it was really neat. And just hearing them talk about it. And people had heard of Coffee with Kenobi. I was in Disneyland, and people were coming up to me saying, "Hey, I love your show," which was great. Now, to be fair, I was wearing the Coffee with Kenobi T-shirt.
Yeah.
You know, you got to represent, right?
That's right.
Well, it was fun. I'm trying to think if there's any other fun things that I left out.
You mentioned your favorite part. Yeah, well, your favorite part was your son and him viewing that. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, so the day it came out, I showed it to him, and he sat next to me, and he watched it, and Deanna was next. The three of us were sitting on the couch watching it, and he kept going, ooh, and then he kept going, Stormtroopers. And he goes, Stormtroopers. Then when it's over, he's like, Daddy, let's watch that again. And Deanna said, hey, did you see anybody in that commercial you knew? And he goes, yeah, Stormtroopers. And she goes, did you see Daddy? He goes, what? So we played it again, and then he said, oh, Daddy is Poe. Daddy is Poe. And then he kept saying Poe Daddy. Poe Daddy.
Oh, that's
now that's my new rapper name. Poe Daddy.
Poe Daddy. Dan's there. That's great. That's awesome.
So now for Halloween he wants to be Poe, which I think is really sweet.
Oh wow, that's cool. Yeah. Well, that's funny because even my kids had watched it with me in the dentist office there, and I said, "Did you know somebody in that commercial? Do you see anything?" And they're like, "Oh, well, we saw Poe. I mean, that was all I kind of noticed." As far as characters, they thought I was saying, "Who'd you see in that?" And they're like, "No, I said that's Dan." And they're like, "Wait, let's watch it again." So watch it, like, "Oh yeah, it is." So instantly you're famous. So just like that, it doesn't happen overnight. It just happens with a few seconds.
Isn't that so funny? Well, I mean, at the shoot, Target executives and Disney executives were there, and I spoke with them a little bit, and it's just it's really, really cool. I was in Hollywood, right? I was in Hollywood, California. And there's different stereotypes and things like that. But I can honestly, truthfully tell you, and I'm always truthful, is that everyone was nice, everyone was genuine, and everyone sincerely was passionate about Star Wars and passionate about spreading this message and passionate about, of course, Force Friday and sharing the Force. Mm-hmm. And I was just, Deanna and I kept saying how amazed we were at the sincerity, the kindness, the enthusiasm they had for this project. And I mean, again, it's a beautiful commercial. I'm just thrilled to be a part of it. And I appreciate everyone's feedback. I've gotten more Facebook friend requests in the past 48 hours than I think I've ever gotten. People I haven't spoken to in a while or have contacted me through text and phone calls and messages and just been very supportive. And It's just been great. It's really fun to be able to connect with people. And, it's of course, it's nice to be appreciated for what you're passionate about, but it's just, I hope that this reinforces for people, if you believe in what you're doing and you work really, really hard, good things will happen. It doesn't really, yes, I was very fortunate. I'm very blessed. And, what can I say? I think anyone listening to this show right now, if you work hard, if you believe in what you're doing and you're unabashedly yourself, good things will happen. I really believe that. There's nothing special about who I am or what I did. I'm very blessed, and I believe in what I'm doing. And that's what everybody can do. Everyone listening has that potential and that ability to do that. The Force is strong with everybody. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well said.
All right, so without further ado, let's listen in to my conversation, my cup of coffee with the rest of the cast. If you are a huge Star Wars fan, and let's face it, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are, and if you love collecting Star Wars, the Star Wars Card Trader app from Topps is for you.
The best part, the Star Wars Card Trader app features incredible images from the original trilogy, the prequels, the Clone Wars, Rebels, and The Force Awakens. Every era, you love is included on the app.
It's easy and a lot of fun, too. Beloved characters, key scenes, and unforgettable moments are in every pack. Open the app every day and get free credits to spend on card packs from the Cantina, trade with your friends, and make new ones along the way as you continue to add to your Star Wars collection. And it's all free.
The variety makes it fun, too. So chase what you love. Some of the latest packs include poster series, classic comic book series, helmet variety packs, and so much more. There are even exclusive cards you can get by completing sets, as well as special inserts and even autograph opportunities. Don't worry about missing the cards you love either, as you sign up for notifications right on the app.
The Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps can be downloaded for free from iTunes or Google Play. Be sure to download the app and start your collection today.
The Star Wars Digital Card Trader app from Topps is available now. And remember, these are the cards you're looking for.
The Target Rogue One commercial has premiered on YouTube, and I have the honor of having a cup of coffee with my fellow actors as we bring you a behind-the-scenes account of everything that went into this incredible experience for all of us. The cast includes Charlie Burns, who played the Stormtrooper, is 9 years old, just starting 5th grade, and may be recognized by Star Wars fans from October of 2014 as the little girl who dressed up like Han Solo for Halloween. She's joined by her father, Tom Burns, who's a writer and an editor for YourTango.com and runs the blog BuildingLibrary.com. Amira and Brandon Martin played the mother and son, respectively. Amira runs Four Hats and Frugal, a blog that focuses on family, food, fashion, and finance. Her son, Brandon, is a 10-year-old Star Wars fan who made me laugh throughout the entire experience of the shoot. And unfortunately, he is in bed right now, so he will not be able to join us, but we hope to chat with him soon because he is definitely an entertaining young man. So welcome all of you so much, and thank you for being a guest on Coffee with Kenobi.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Dan.
Absolutely. So we, of course, at the time we're recording this, none of us have seen the commercial. But yeah, see, everybody's excited. We cannot wait to see what's going to happen. We certainly have a lot of theories and seen a lot of things. So we'll just kind of go on down the line. And Charlie, we'll start with you. Tell me kind of briefly your history of how you fell in love with Star Wars.
So when I was really little at the dinner table, I would always be like, so Dad, what's the plot of Star Wars? And we'd literally be at that table for like 3 hours just talking about plots of the 3 Star Wars movies. And then when I was old enough to actually see them, my dad, when my mom was pregnant, had gotten all the episodes 4, 5, and 6 on Laserdisc. And so I started watching those in first grade, and I just kind of fell in love with it.
I love that you are 9 and you know what Laserdiscs are. That's good parenting. I think that's going to be a theme. We've got a lot of good parenting going on here with spreading the love of Star Wars.
Well, it was just kind of cool because the first time I saw them, I'm like, whoa, did that just happen? And I would like rewind it and then watch that scene again. Like, I kept watching the scene where Han Solo goes, laugh it up, fuzzball. I watched that like 5 times over again.
It always brings laughs, so no matter how many times you've seen it. And Tom, obviously you have been instrumental in bringing up your daughter to be a Star Wars fan. Well, how about you? How did you fall in love with the saga?
Oh, well, it was really, I was born the year New Hope came out. So I sort of, Star Wars has always been there. And so I remember going on this is totally going to date me, but I remember going on a family vacation to a hotel in northern Michigan, and they had an actual projection room where they had they had a projectionist who would show movies for the guests at the hotel. And on that trip, I saw Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Richard Donner's Superman all in like one weekend.
Wow.
And completely blew my mind. Just was the best. And we found out that if you went down to the projection room during the day, the guy would like just replay all of the night's movies. So we spent the whole weekend trying to go back into the projection room to get him to show us Star Wars again, which was fantastic. And then I was old enough finally to see Return of the Jedi when that came out in the theater. And I think I probably saw it 11 times in the theater. It was just such a big movie for me.
Oh, I can absolutely relate. And Amira, what about you?
Well, I have to say my love affair with Star Wars started from my dad. My dad and I used to sit and watch sci-fi shows, and we would go see sci-fi movies in the theater. And when I was 8 years old, after being a Trekkie for all that time, he finally said, okay, it's time to sit down and watch Star Wars. So we watched 4, 5, and 6, and I fell in love. And I told him, you lost me, Dad. I'm sorry. I'm no longer a Trekkie.
So are you someone that likes both, though, overall, as an adult?
I can say I do appreciate both. I mean, obviously, I'm a fan of a lightsaber. Yes. So I'm very much a Star Wars fan. But I think growing up in that type of household, I have an appreciation for any type of sci-fi fantasy. And even, now that I'm even older, my dad and we can still sit down and watch a show, sci-fi based, anything sci-fi based. So I thank him so much for that, because I have that in my blood now.
Clearly, we're all on a sort of a level where we love Star Wars so much, and we incorporate that into sort of our daily lives, honestly. And so we're all picked to be in this commercial. So Charlie and Tom, let's start with you two. How were you selected to be in this amazing commercial?
Well, we had, I think we got on the radar because 2 years ago for Halloween, Charlie had just seen Star Wars a few months before, and we were talking about what she wanted to be for Halloween, and she sort of, and she was like, well, I have an idea, but I don't know if it's okay. And I was like, well, what do you mean if it's okay? And she was like, well, I really want to be Han Solo. And I was like, oh, that's great. Yeah, that would be great. And she was like, and she had all this apprehension, and she was like, but is it all right that I'm going to be dressing up like a boy? Like, is that weird? Like, should I not? And, and I got very, as the dad of a daughter, got very sort of puffed up, and you can do whatever you want. And whatever, you don't have to gender norms. You don't, whatever you want to do. And I was like, it's totally fine. And she went, okay, all right. And then she just sort of looked at me and said, well, if I'm going to be Han Solo, then I guess you should be Princess Leia, right? And just sort of gave me it was a challenge pretty much, where she was just like, right. And, in that moment, what am I supposed to say? So I went, sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah. We'll make that happen. So I went and started putting together a Princess Leia costume. And so when
he first put it on for the first time, I wouldn't stop laughing.
Yeah. Nothing with like a hefty, unshaven guy in a dress is that's a pretty good way to get laughs. But it was just really fun, and it was really funny, and she looked great in her Han Solo costume. And so we were going to an event at our local zoo like 2 weeks before Halloween, and my wife took a picture of us just leaving the house that I posted to Facebook just to show some friends. And I've written for a bunch of different websites, and one of my editors saw the picture and was like, oh my God, you have to let me post that. And she's like, write up a little blurb to go with it about doing that and let me post it. And I said, all right. So I did. And the pictures went
crazy.
Yeah, the pictures went viral. They ended up on the front page of Reddit and of Yahoo, and the Meredith Vieira show did something on it. And it ended up in this book, this Ripley's Believe It or Not book. Like it was just sort of insane. We got recognized when we went trick-or-treating. So it was just sort of crazy. And then, so because of that, when they were looking for people for this commercial, they had sent an email to a friend of ours who's in the 501st, describing stories, like, they were looking for Star Wars stories. And in the email they sent him, they said, oh, and, we're looking for stories kind of like, one example would be that father and daughter who dressed up like Princess Leia and Han Solo for Halloween. And he sort of replied and said, oh, that's my buddy Tom. Do you want his email address? And that's kind of how we ended up getting in contact with the agency, and how we ended up in the commercial.
It's amazing. This whole thing has been so surreal, such an out-of-body experience. And Amira, you're certainly no stranger to amazing things happening. You are one of the hardest working people I have ever met. Foreheads and Frugal, just a wonderful blog. And my wife, she is very open to listening to me talk about this amazing Star Wars universe. And I showed her your blog, and she said, I love this. I'm going to check this out. So you've got a new fan. But tell us kind of about how you were picked to be in this commercial. And I'm assuming Foreheads and Frugal had a lot to do with that.
Partially, yeah. I think how we got on the radar was actually last year. My husband and I, we did a video where we talked about how Black Star Wars fans do exist, that we're out here. We promised we're here. And it was, really funny, and we got a good response to it. And last year, Target did a Share the Force commercial, and I think it was online only as well. But they basically did a montage of just fans via video, or fans sending in old pictures of them in their old Star Wars costumes during Halloween and during Christmas, opening up their Star Wars gifts and things like that. So a little snippet of our video was within that commercial. And they had, they loved it so much, and they said how wonderful it was, how funny the video was. And actually, one of the ladies that found the video on YouTube, she was at our shoot, and she told me, hey, I was the one that found your video last year. Wow. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, thank you so much. So I think that's where that came from. I think they had been following our family anyway, because we are not shy about being Star Wars fans. We post a lot of photos and a lot of video of us enjoying the movies and wearing our T-shirts and dressing up for Halloween. So I guess they just figured, look, they're real fans. We got to get them in on this.
Did you both have similar experiences with talking and kind of not knowing for sure what was going to happen?
Yeah, I have to say exactly what you went through is exactly what I went through. Okay. Especially down to the Skype. Our last Skype interview was with Brandon, my son. So everything else was just me up until that point. And then they wanted, I guess they wanted to see his face and talk to him and ask him Star Wars questions. But that was our last little thing. And then there was a little pause, and then we got the email saying that we were being sent to LA.
When I told my wife about this, she looked at me like I don't know, we felt like we were just playing a part on something we were watching on TV. Tom, did you and Charlie kind of feel the same way?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was really surreal. Just something that went from like a quick conversation to a
Skype video call.
Yeah, the Skype video call. But there was a lot of time in between the two. And they always sort of qualified stuff with, hey, we really like you. We're really into this. But hey, just, it might not happen. We might change direction. We might. So we were never, it actually took me a long time to tell Charlie about it.
Because you didn't want me to be sad if we weren't doing it.
Right. And
which I get.
Totally. Absolutely. But then there was a point when they were like, no, we want to have a phone call, like a Skype call with both of you, where I was like, okay, I guess I have to tell her. And so told her, and, we had the Skype call, and I think originally they said they wanted us both to be in it. And then they said, hey, then they were worried that they'd offend me. They were like, I think our vision for it is we just want Charlie. And I was kind of relieved. I was like, well, she's much more photogenic. Like between the two of us, she's the more photogenic one. So I have no problem with that at all. So I was a little relieved. Then finally they were like, it took a very long time from even with those Skype calls to then be like, so is this 100% a sure thing? And, they never really wanted to say. And then,
and then we had this video call, and they were like, see you on Tuesday. So we're like, I think that means we're in.
Yeah. It was basically like, okay, well, they just sent us flight information. So even though they've never actually said it's 100%, I'm going to assume, since we have a plane ticket, that it's maybe going to happen.
So there are a lot of experiences, obviously, that we all went through, and we ran into each other randomly and over the course of this week at Hollywood. But let's talk about our experiences in rehearsal and on the set. And Amira, let's start with you and Brandon. You have this wonderful blog that I got a kick out of reading about your experiences on that. And apparently they were a little bit different than what I had encountered. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, most of our day was just being in a giant green screen room. I don't know if they had you guys do the same thing, but we literally had no clue what was going on. It was just stand here, stay still, turn your face this way, smile like this, play with this toy, and put your sleeve up. It was very, very interesting, especially for Brandon, because, he's 11. Like, he wants to actually play with the toy. He doesn't just want to pretend to play with it. So it was a lot of not standing, but it was just a lot of setting yourself up, I guess, for whatever awesomeness we're going to see. Just obviously we know there was a huge green screen, so something cool was happening behind us. So it was awkward to not have to actually do anything or say anything during like the actual filming day. You know, I know we all had voiceovers too. I think most of us had voiceovers. So that was another different experience to sit there and talk for an hour or two about Star Wars. But like the actual video day was just very interesting. I think that's the word I'll use. And then I guess we can talk about it because it'll be out. That's how right. They would ask us the questions. I don't know if you guys remember that. And then we didn't know, but they were actually writing down the things we were saying. And then they gave us the little script of things to say. And it was all the things we had just said. So I thought that was pretty interesting how, from the questions, just them asking us about Star Wars and being a fan and being a rebel, how they were actually building a script for us, like an individual customized script for each of us to read at the end of the voiceover. So I thought that was really cool.
It was great. And Charlie and Tom, what about you two?
That was really cool.
It was fun and interesting.
Yeah, and it was neat because we actually got to see both sides of it because Charlie went into the recording room, and they had me sit in the control room.
And I accidentally made fun of my dad when the microphone was on, and I didn't think it was on.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like you accidentally made fun of him. It seems you accidentally got caught.
I purposely got caught.
That was pretty great because...
And no one told me.
Because she said something like, oh, yeah, my dad's a total dork about that. And they didn't want to, so we were in that, and so the whole room laughs, and and it was funny because Charlie had asked, I originally was sitting at the desk, and she could see me where she's sitting, and then she was like, hey, can we have my dad not sit in my eye? Like, I think I was making her nervous, and so she basically said, can he not be in my eye line? Because, she's a star now, apparently.
That's right.
So I went and sat in the couch sort of in the back of the room, and, and she said that, and they laughed, and I think they were nervous that if they let her know that the people in the room could hear her, because she didn't understand that the people in the control room could hear her.
Because everyone said the mic was off.
That's true. So they were like, oh, I think they wanted to not make her self-conscious. So they had said, because at one point she said, why are the people in the other room laughing? And they were like, oh, that's just because I forget his name, but like Bob at the keyboard's a really funny guy.
Yes.
And she's like, okay. And so she had this really loose, fun conversation with the people in the booth, and and the people in the control room were trying not to like let on because they didn't want to make her self-conscious. And then the second she was done and they confirmed, they're like, yep, she's totally done. And she walked out of the room. I just looked at her and I was like, I heard everything.
You're grounded.
Yeah, so she got a big...
Luckily, I didn't get grounded or yelled at.
That's good.
Oh, it was hysterical. It was so funny.
We were just laughing.
It was great. But it was really funny because then I would get to see when sitting in the control room, because they're just asking her spontaneous questions, and you could tell when they liked something that she said, and immediately it'd be like, mark that. And there was someone who was writing it down, and there was someone who noticing, and they were like sort of shouting out like time codes to each other so they would know where it was and assembling it. And then once they sort of got through the initial interview, they had compiled this list of things that they liked that she had said. And then we're like, okay, Charlie, just to make sure we had this. And then they were feeding her lines, the things that she had just said, but they were like, they wanted to get a couple different versions of them. And so she did that for a while, which was really interesting to watch.
It was actually quite fun.
So Brandon and I, while we were waiting for other people to do things, he and I had the most fun joking and talking. And he would ask me a lot of random questions about Star Wars, and he was talking about Boba Fett, and I just thought, oh man, this guy's gonna kill it in the commercial because he's really, really entertaining. So be sure to tell him I said hello.
I will.
Charlie, you and I, because I believe, Amir, you were the day before, correct? Because I was on Thursday. You were on Wednesday?
Yeah, we were the day before you guys.
Okay, so you talked about the set. Is there anything else you want to talk about the actual shoot itself before we move on to see what Charlie thought of the shoot?
No, I mean, I'd love to hear what you guys thought, because since we didn't get to see each other, I'm curious if it was a little bit different for you.
Well, Charlie, why don't you go first? Because when I was up there and they were filming me doing stuff, you had like 5 or 6 fans blowing your hair all over the place, didn't you?
Yeah, there's supposed to be a part where my hair is blowing in the wind, and so they were just constantly blowing me with these big gushes of air. And at one point, Frankie, the second AD, just for fun, blasted me.
I saw that, actually.
And then another fan guy was like, "Charlie, come here, hit this red button." And so we blasted her after.
That was really fun. They kept the thing they kept describing it to Charlie as is they were like, they're
Beyonce.
like, yeah, they were like, "Do you know Beyonce?" and she was like, "I totally know Beyonce." They're like, "This is a Beyonce shot. This is like going to be your hair blowing. We want you to look fierce." And at one point, Charlie goes, "So do you want lemonade Beyonce or single ladies Beyonce?" And the second unit director was like, "Oh my God, I love her."
You gotta love that. That is outstanding.
But so it was a lot of her.
Standing around.
It was a lot of her
because my costume was a little too big, and every time like my hair was blowing in the wind, someone would have to come and just reset my hair.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was because of the Beyonce fans, the poor hair and makeup woman, so every time they would do it, she would have to run in and rebrush Charlie's hair and get Charlie's sort of hair back.
If you had to narrow it down, Amira, to the most surprising or the most fun thing about this entire experience, what would that be?
I think it would be really actually spending time with my kid. I know, Dan, you said you read my blog post about our experience.
Yes.
I mean, I'm a mom of 3, and he's my oldest, but we haven't had a time where it's just me and him going on a special trip, doing something this awesome. So I think just us having to have that time together and him being able to see what it's like when, you have to do a job, and when your job can correlate with what you really love and how awesome that can be. And even after the fact, like even till today, he still talks about that trip, and he has thanked me a couple of times about, letting him, quote unquote, going to, go to LA to film the commercial. So I think that's my favorite part. Like the aftermath of it is that we've gotten closer and we have this experience that we can share together.
That's wonderful. One of the best things about Star Wars for me is how it truly does bring people and families together in very unique ways that I think you won't find in a lot of different fields or interests. And what about you, Charlie and Tom? What was the most surprising or fun thing that you take away from this experience?
I don't know. There was so much, but I think the most fun thing was just kind of getting to do a commercial.
Yeah, that was really, it was funny. Earlier in the year, before this ever came up, Charlie and I had been talking, and I was like, if you could, and we were like, oh, if we could go anywhere, like on vacation, where would you want to go? And she
said LA.
And she said Los Angeles.
Because I had never been to California since then.
And so it was sort of amazing when this came up. We were sort of like, oh my God, well, like, I guess we are going to LA. And then it was, so not only does she get to have this big trip out to LA and
have the real Hollywood experience.
Right. And, we're in a hotel with a view of the Hollywood sign and, could not be more of a sort of an LA thing, but then, not a sort of an LA experience that that nobody really gets. It's like, oh, we're not just going to LA to see the sights. We're going to see some of that, but we're going to go be in a commercial. We're going to go film something for Star Wars.
Yes.
And you're going to be in a Star Wars costume, and there's going to be craft services and people from Lucasfilm are going to walk by and be like, hey, it's going great.
I never thought I would be able to say, hey, I was in a Star Wars commercial, and now I can.
That is the best soundbite right there, because that's exactly what it is. The whole thing, I keep saying, was an out-of-body experience, but knowing that you were being flown to L.A. to be a part of something Star Wars, to promote Rogue One and the Star Wars merchandise that they're selling at Target is just completely, even when I'm saying it, I don't even believe that I was a part of it, because it was just so surreal. It was just a wonderful thing. So many fun parts about it. Honestly, meeting all of you was really great, because when you meet Star Wars fans from all over the place, we have different backgrounds and come from different places, but we share that common thing, which is Star Wars. And that's one of the things that I think I'm going to take away from this experience. If you are patient and persistent and kind, good things come your way. You can do a lot with any hobby that you have or anything that you're interested in. If you just believe in yourself, treat people with kindness, and stick to your values, great things can happen. That's definitely one of my biggest takeaways. What about you two?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I definitely, it was amazing. And I really agree with what you said, Dan, just in the sense of like, all of this sort of came from like a really positive, fun place for us. Like it started with us just like goofy, like coming up with like Halloween costumes that really amuse us.
And then picking Han Solo.
Right. And picking something that we really enjoyed and just sort of having a lot of fun, with this idea and people really responding to it and sort of putting that out into the world. And then it was sort of, and then these connections were made because of that and because of friends we've made about that. And, getting into these really sort of pleasant talks with like the ad people and them, eventually offering it all just sort of came from this like really
funny, positive place.
Yeah. A real place of optimism and just like, oh, wow, we just put like, this is just a fun thing to do and people are responding to it.
Anytime I wasn't on set, I was probably goofing off someplace.
That's true. Absolutely. But in the best way possible.
Of course. Yeah. Everybody was incredibly nice. Like every single person involved from top to bottom, they all were so generous and gracious and patient with their time. Amir, what about you? What are you going to take away from this? You obviously had an amazing time with your son, which nothing beats that. But is there anything else as far as like how you view Star Wars or things you're going to take away from this that for Four Hats and Frugal or just you as a person?
I think my biggest takeaway is just there's
on Coffee with Kenobi.
Yeah, well, look, number one, I'm on Coffee with Kenobi, so obviously. But I think it's the fact that when you're just genuine about what you love and who you are, it's awesome how things just work out. And I think I know you just mentioned that, being persistent and, just being a happy person and being a positive person brings so much to you. And I think that's probably why we were picked. Like when I met all of you and we had our lovely conversations, you could really see that, they were really smart in the people that they picked for this, because we all are just wonderful people to be around. I'm going to say it. I think we are. And we know how to have fun and we know how to take an experience and really be grateful for it. And I think that everybody that they picked, we were all just so grateful to be there. And we were all being our genuine selves. And Star Wars is something that's a big part of who we are as people. And I just having someone say, because of who you are, we want to invest in you and we want to put you in something really, really cool. It's a great thing. That's a great way to live life.
That I could not have said that any better myself. You should be a writer. Seriously, that just encapsulates my feelings so well. The fact that, and Deanna and I were talking about this, I talk about Star Wars from a recording studio in my basement. I've been an unabashedly passionate, outgoing Star Wars fan. I'm just not afraid to be who I am. And however that reflects itself, I use it in the classroom. It's just something fun to talk about. But it's not Star Wars. Man does not live on Star Wars alone. It's just like sort of a way to break bread that opens up the door to conversation. And yeah, I feel like I met people who are sincere, who are real, who are not afraid to be who they are, which I think is incredibly important. I mean, Charlie, you were living proof of that. You had something you wanted to do, and your dad was so awesome and supportive. And look where you are now. You're in the Star Wars commercial, and you got to experience wearing Stormtrooper armor. So many people just love to have that. It's a really great thing. So now we have an added bonus to add to our amazing conversation we've had so far. We've got Jennifer Landa with us, who plays the bride. Jennifer is a YouTuber who makes videos about all things Star Wars. She is also a host on the Force Center Podcast Network. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh my goodness, yes. Welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. And we were talking earlier about sort of our experiences with this amazing commercial, which none of us have seen. So tell us, if you will, a brief history about your love of Star Wars.
Oh gosh, I've loved Star Wars ever since I was a child. I'm sure that many of you guys have had a similar experience. The very first time I saw it was Return of the Jedi, and I fell in love. According to my mother, I think I saw it pretty young, so I was a little scared by some scenes, but I did love the Ewoks right off the bat. And then it just became a part of my life growing up. And for me, it offered a lot of hope. So I would go home after school and I would watch my Return of the Jedi video tape, which they don't really make those anymore. But I would just watch it over and over again, and I just try and escape into that world. And then as I got older, as an adult, I found the online community and going to Star Wars conventions, and my world, it truly opened up. So it was pretty awesome.
Indeed, it was and is for sure. And so we'd all talked about how we were sort of selected to be a part of this commercial. How did the whole process evolve for you?
They actually contacted Josh and asked if we were interested in participating. And we said yes. And of course, there's the whole process of the interview and getting to know people. And then we got it. So it was a huge surprise. And it feels like we're a part of the Star Wars universe now in some kind of way. I wouldn't say that we're canon, but yeah, but I mean, it was incredible. And then, so it was a dream.
So you mentioned Josh, you're talking about Josh Bush, correct?
Yes, my husband, Josh. Yes, sorry.
Okay. So, and that's when I'm glad you brought that up, Jennifer, because this is neat. Like, I went with my wife. She wasn't a part of the commercial officially, but she was certainly there in supporting me and just being incredibly awesome, as she always is. So it was me as a teacher, you and your husband were on together as a married couple, and then Amira and Brandon were a mother and a son. And it was just, and then Charlie was there with her amazing father supporting her. So there's definitely some very smart things that they did with how they cast all of us, because we all represent very different walks of life as Star Wars fans.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was what I loved. I mean, they learned about us because of our Star Wars wedding that we had a couple years ago. And they really liked it. And so, yeah, I loved that they were trying to find real fans. And that's a wonderful thing. I mean, that's the beauty of where we are right now with the internet and Twitter and all these great social media sites, is that they can connect with the real fans directly. And that's awesome.
And did you receive some exciting emails as we did to find out you were a part of this?
Yes, I did.
I think I reread mine 3 or 4 times when I was getting ready to board the plane, just to make sure that it was actually happening, because it was just so surreal. And you and I had chatted quite a bit in rehearsal. You weren't there the day that I was shooting, because you had gone the day before. You and Amir, I believe, were on the set the same day. So tell me about your experiences overall with the rehearsal and the actual shooting of the commercial itself.
It was pretty awesome. I mean, to me, it's like, as I say, it's living the dream, because you arrive on set and everyone's so excited. It was a really cool facility with this gigantic green screen. And then for us, and I think for Amira and Brandon, they also it was like a platform. And that was where we basically got married again, Josh and I. And I don't know what they have planned, but there were some polls where I think that they're going to put potentially characters or something. Who knows? It just looked like polls to us. But yeah, it just was awesome. And everyone there was so nice and excited to be there, and delicious food and Star Wars stuff all around us, which I know we can't share just yet. But yeah, it was a dream come true. Were you dressed up in costume?
I was the Rebel pilot.
You were? Yes. Oh, so cool.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. And Charlie was, of course, a stormtrooper. And what you missed earlier, she was talking about, and I'll let Charlie tell it again, is they had all these wind machines on her, and they told her she was like Beyonce. And Charlie, what did you say when they told you that?
I said, should I be Lemonade Beyonce or Single Ladies Beyonce?
Oh my gosh, I love it.
It's so great. So you were on set. How long were you on set?
We were on set for, I would say, almost almost 8 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. And it was interesting too, because we parked at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery across the street, and
people are dying to get into that place. Sorry, I couldn't help.
Oh, yeah, I know. Oh, that's good. That's good. I've actually been there for movie screenings, which is a lot of fun. It's a little creepy, but a lot of fun. And we saw some peacocks that morning that we parked there. Thought it was a very good sign before we went to our shoot.
That's
seeing those
cool.
peacocks.
So you had that amazing experience on the set. And what was the most surprising or fun thing overall? And what will you take away from this experience that you just kind of bring into your fandom and your career as a Star Wars fan?
I think what I loved was actually meeting you guys, connecting with other fans, sharing in our excitement, because that's really what Star Wars is about. I love watching it by myself. I've watched it many times, but it's more fun to share and experience it with other people. So getting to chat with you guys about, how excited we are for the upcoming films and the toys and whatnot. That's, to me, what Star Wars is about. And then getting to be a part of this exciting production and kind of this new beginning of Star Wars was also just pretty, it's one of those things that I never thought that this would have ever happened as a kid. Never in my wildest dreams. But here we are, and it's amazing.
It really is. It really is. So it's just been so wonderful having you all on. And before we let you go, we have 5 questions that we ask each guest on Coffee with Kenobi to show the commonality that we have as fans. So we're just going to start with you, Charlie, and then we're just going to move on down the line. What is your favorite Star Wars movie?
Return of the Jedi.
Okay, Tom, what about you?
Probably Empire Strikes Back.
I would echo that sentiment. Amira, what about you?
Definitely Empire.
And Jennifer?
Empire Strikes Back.
I think it's fair to say this is a generational thing.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. We find that quite often. Charlie, your favorite Star Wars character?
My favorite Star Wars character is probably Han Solo.
I had a feeling you might say that. So how did you feel when you saw The Force Awakens? Since Han is your favorite?
I was excited, but at the same time I was nervous because it's a sequel. I didn't know if it was going to be good or bad. So I was a little nervous about that part.
Were you sad when Han Solo walked out on that catwalk?
Yeah, I was crying, actually.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah.
And Tom, what about you? Your favorite character?
My favorite character, I think when I was a kid, was probably Luke, because he got to use the lightsaber, and that was really big for me. But I think as I've gotten older, it would maybe be Han.
Amira, what about you?
When I was younger, I think my favorite was Princess Leia with R2 as a backup. But now that I'm older and I have kids, it's hard to say. I'm kind of a Darth fan now. I get it. I get it now. So I think, having kids totally changes your mindset. So now I can kind of understand where he was coming from. So I think I might be a Darth fan now.
That's awesome. What about you, Jennifer?
I would say it's a tie between Salacious B. Crumb for his...
I love that you put his middle initial in there.
Yeah, he is. Just his laugh is glorious. He has a really kind of twisted sense of humor. I appreciate that. But I do love Yoda. And Yoda's wisdom is something that I've carried with me ever since I was a kid. And now Yoda is my daughter, who's 14 months old. He is now her favorite character. She calls him Ada. So
awesome.
Now I love him even more. Yeah.
I love it. Salacious B. Crumb. Mark Dodson is the voice of him, and we had him on when we first started our show. He's a very entertaining guy.
No way.
So we'll go again to the top. Charlie, back to you. What is your favorite line of dialogue or film moment from any of the 7 films?
Probably Laugh It Up, Fuzzball.
What about you, Tom?
I love all the scenes with them in the asteroid field in the Millennium Falcon trying to get away in Empire. Yeah, I think it's so funny, and particularly the recurring "it's not my fault" thing in Empire, where they're trying to get the hyperdrive to work and it's not working, and Han just can't understand it. And then when they bring it back with Lando at the end, I absolutely love that.
What about you, Amira?
I got a bad feeling about this. It's always a good one.
Which time?
Every time.
How much did you love it when they said it in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
Oh my gosh. My husband and I talk about that every time we watch it. It's just funny that not many people would catch that, but when you do catch it and you are a fan, you go, oh, that was genius.
It's great. That's actually my second favorite Indiana Jones movie. I know that's somewhat controversial, but I'm comfortable with that. There's just a lot I really like about it. We could go on about that. Well, when we have coffee with Katanga, we'll talk about that. What about you, Jennifer?
Yoda, it would be do or do not. There is no try. That one's one I still remind myself, oftentimes I'm like, well, I guess I'll give it a shot. No, just go for it. Do it. Yeah, it's an awesome one.
So, Charlie, back to you. If you collect, what is your favorite collectible that you own?
Either this Ewok village my dad gave me that used to be his.
Nice.
Or the Millennium Falcon that I have.
Which one do you have? Which Falcon?
The original. It's another one of my old dad's.
Yeah.
This big one with tiny seats that you can open up.
I love it.
Yeah, she has my original.
I have all your old toys.
Yeah, you have a lot of my old toys. So you have my Ewok Village that I got for Christmas, I think, in 1983, and you have my Millennium Falcon that I got before then. They're a little banged up, but they're still
awesome.
They're still kind of awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I love those. I have an original Boba Fett action figure that I had when I was a kid, and so that I really.
That's also in my girl cave.
That's also in your girl cave. Yeah, most of my Star Wars stuff ended up in your girl cave.
That is fantastic. I've never heard that girl cave. I love that.
I love it.
Yeah, so that would probably be that, and then the stuff I've passed down to her, like the Ewok Village.
Good deal. Amira, what about you?
Well, I have a small collection of Boba Fett items. I do. He's a fascinating character. So my husband is very kind that whenever he sees anything really cool that has to do with Boba Fett, he tends to get it for me. So I have a varsity jacket. He has one. I have one.
Nice.
I have a large Boba Fett action figure that is just to die for, and I can't wait until we're moving soon. So once we move, that's going to be in my little office area. So I have a lot of Boba Fett items. He's just so stoic and so mysterious. I don't know. He's not my favorite character, but he's so interesting to me. So anything that comes up that's Boba Fett themed, I have to have it.
How did Attack of the Clones and Daniel Logan impact your affinity for Boba Fett? Did it have an impact either way?
No, it actually didn't. I think a lot of people ask me that. I'm like, and they're surprised when I say no. I just, it really didn't. I like the idea that we got to really, see that part, but I just, no, it's just, he's still fascinating to me. And I am fingers crossed, because you know how the rumors are, that the whole film idea, the feature film for Boba does happen. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for that one, because I think that would be really awesome if we got that as fans.
Well, on Coffee with Kenobi, we don't do rumors, so I have no idea what you're talking about. This is not the rumor you're looking for. All right, so what about you, Jennifer?
That's
your favorite collectible?
I would have to say my husband's actually. He gave me his set of vintage action figures from when he was a kid that his mom, she had kept it in storage all these years because she knew how important they were to him. And so when we first started dating, he gave them to me. And that was like, that was when I knew we were getting serious, because he gave me his vintage action figures. So I love those. And then also his vintage Millennium Falcon, which it's so beat up, which of course is appropriate. But yes. Yeah, it's pretty special. And I love incorporating them in videos, or, my daughter is not allowed to play with them just yet, but someday she will. I look forward to that.
Well, I love that he gave you those. That's better than a class ring, honestly.
That's how I felt.
Because that shows something about it's so important to him, and he gave that to you. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So the last one we have, and this is the one that is the most reflective, perhaps. And Charlie, we'll start with you because we're going to give you the tough one first. What particular messages or themes about the Star Wars saga resonate or speak to you?
I really like the kind of the tough girl themes in it.
Sure.
Just because I kind of grew up thinking that, like, I had these little princess toys and a fire hydrant, and I used to play that the princesses were firemen.
That's right. Yeah,
So
you always like to take your female characters and have them do something kind of kick butt. So
when I watched those and I saw like Princess Leia killing Jabba the Hutt, I was like, whoa.
That is wonderful. And Tom, seriously, man, you should write a book because we have talked a lot about how important that is and equality and not having toys that are just girl toys or boy toys or walking down the different aisles of toy stores. And it's so rare to see everything incorporated together. And I applaud you, sir. Thank you so much for doing that. Not that you need my thanks. I mean, your thanks is seeing your little girl grow up, but it's a great thing.
Yeah, it's been pretty great.
Mom should publish your book.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So what about you? Your favorite particular message or themes about Star Wars that resonates or speaks to you?
I always really liked the way, I love the idea in the movies, particularly the original trilogy, about how, being good is a rebellion. That the good guys aren't called heroes; they're called rebels. That deciding to sort of buck the status quo and to sort of stand up for the little people and to sort of stand up against sort of a big oppressive empire is an act of rebellion. That it's to go against that is sort of a revolutionary act. And so I always really loved how the Star Wars movies sort of cast that as, being the people who are going to go out and put themselves on the line and try to make things better is an act of rebellion. I always thought that was a really cool way that they sort of framed their good guys.
Absolutely. And there's some historical context with that as well. Amir, what about you?
I think I like that we keep getting the whole being ordinary can also be extraordinary type of storyline. I think, everyone from Luke, even to Anakin and then to Rey, they were always seen as just regular, ordinary, nothing special. And then we obviously learn that they are very special and they have abilities that others may not have, and that those abilities end up saving the day. So, and I think a lot of families and a lot of kids can, relate to that because they think they're just a regular kid, but really they can make a big difference one day.
Yes, whether you're a farm boy or a scavenger, no matter what your humble origins, yes, there is that special something inside each of us, and I completely agree. Star Wars taps into that, and it's inspiring. Jennifer, what about you?
Wow, you guys are great. I totally want to echo your sentiments, which is this notion of like David versus Goliath, and really, size matters not. And this notion that the underdogs can win, even though it seems, against all odds, it seems impossible. If you not only believe in yourself, but also come together, which, the rebels, they come together to fight for this cause, and it seems impossible to take down the mighty empire, but because of this sense of community and this desire to fight for good, they're able to triumph. And that's the message of hope. It's such an incredibly important message, and one that I think is important to share with children, especially.
George Lucas is such a genius. I've said this many times. He has reinvented Star Wars for every generation. It's been quite an amazing experience. And if ever you all want to be back on Coffee with Kenobi, we'd love to have you. You're certainly part of our Coffee with Kenobi family. And I'm sure that everybody would love to hear more about everything that you're all doing. So let's go back to Charlie and Tom. where can people get in touch with you if they want to ask you a question or just say hello?
Well, if people want to say hello, probably the best way would either be through my Twitter, which is at Build a Library. Which is the Twitter account for my blog, which is buildingalibrary.com, which is a website I started when Charlie was really young because I was obsessed with finding the right books for her to read. And so it's a lot about me discussing the books that I've bought for her and sort of recommending books for other parents.
What about you, Amira? I believe you have a bit of an online presence.
Yeah, I'm online a little bit. I think probably the best place to grab me, and Dan, you know this for sure, is to send me a tweet or a message on Twitter. I'm Amira Martin on Twitter, so you can always tweet me. I love to have conversations over there.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter as well, at Jennifer Landa, or my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Jennifer Landa, where I'm posting weekly Star Wars videos. I took a couple weeks off for hiatus, but I'm back. And sometimes I'll just talk about the latest Star Wars news or sketch videos, things like that. So, yeah.
And Force Center as well.
Yes, and the Force Center podcast. You can find us at Force Center Pod on Twitter. And I have two shows, the Force Center main show, which I do with Ken Knapsack and Joseph Scrimshaw, and also my own Jedi Beat podcast as well, which is on that network.
And I will put links to all of your fine works on the website and through our show notes so people can reach out to you. Thank you all so very, very much. I can't wait to hear your thoughts about the commercial when we finally get to see it very, very soon. So enjoy this amazing experience. It's not quite over yet, and have a wonderful night, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Dan.
Chewie, get us out of here!
If you love Star Wars and love the excitement of chasing your favorite Star Wars collectibles, the Star Wars Digital Card Trader collecting app from Topps is for you. Download the free app from iTunes or Google Play and collect your favorite images from the classic 1977 Star Wars cards to Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, The Force Awakens, and much more. Collect and trade with friends new and old through the Star Wars Digital Card Trader collecting app from Topps. These are the cards you're looking for.
If you would like to respond to our question of the show, have a comment, or just want to say hello, send us an email or MP3 at feedback@coffeewithkenobi.com. Or if you have a specific question or comment for either of us individually, email us at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com or coryc@coffeewithkenobi.com, or visit us at coffeewithkenobi.com and click on the Contact Us section or comment on one of the stories featured on the site. If you enjoy the show, please write a review in iTunes or Stitcher. You can also like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi, as well as keep up to date at our Twitter feed at Coffee with Kenobi. You can also find us on Tumblr at coffeewithkenobi.tumblr.com. If you enjoy the jazz music, the album is Eye to Eye by Steve Torok.
Give the evacuation code signal.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here. Move along.